Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, my name is David Arega Klein, also known as Dave. Wait a second, I'm gonna bring up my phone for this. Hold on. As I said, my name is David Arega Klein. I'm also known as Dave. I'm an 18-year-old. I'm an African, I'm a man, and not only a regular man, I'm a man who brought this all together, who came up with the idea from the beginning, and now we're here, we've made it, so that's a celebration, that's great. So yeah, what I've done and accomplished, okay. So it all really started about a year ago, in March, when I was introduced to my consciousness and the whole consciousness movement. So I came across a YouTube clip, which was about Louis Farrakhan. He was on Donahue Show, 1990, and I saw how he effortlessly, politely educated the bigots with class. And I remember how I was inspired by that. And then I started to watch other people like him. So I got introduced to people like Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Julius Malema, and also, of course, Dr. Umar is going to be here. So that kind of introduced me to the conscious movement and me being conscious and having a way of thinking and how I live my life. So I actually reached out to Dr. Umar about 10 months ago. In May, I reached out to him on Instagram, and I didn't expect an answer. So I asked him regularly. I was like, I would appreciate if you could come here to Sweden and speak for the Swedish African community and, do something good for our people. I would deeply appreciate that. And I was not expecting an answer. I just threw it out there. And then I remember, a Friday afternoon, it was the last lesson in my school, and I just remember I received a notification and I looked at it and was like, shit, Dr. Umar answered my question. So I went over there and he sent me his number, and he was super respectful. And the day after that, I actually called him and we had a beautiful conversation. Very respectful man. And after that, we've been moving up, and that's kind of how it all started. There's been many ups and downs through all of this. Many venues have kicked us out. Many people have not thought that. And many people have not supported Dr. Umar's ideology and the Pan-Afrikan ideology, and therefore we have struggled a bit with making this happen. But now we're here, we made it, and I'm just very thankful. I'm entirely thankful. I'm grateful for this. And wait a second. When I watched Dr. Umar, I saw strength, I saw pride, and that knowledge, that knowledge empowered me, and that led me to start to empower others. And the motive behind this is that we want to take actions. We want to show other people that we should take actions. And I was only 17 by this time, so you just need to take actions. You just need to be fearless and just do things, not just talk about it. And another part of the motive is that I want to see self-determination, to see black people do for themselves, because then our self-respect will increase. And the main motive with the event is, of course, black empowerment. So, to my introduction, I'm introducing a brother with a lot of strength and experience. I'm introducing a brother with a lot of knowledge and respect, a brother with a lot of kindness, a brother who is misunderstood, but most definitely a brother who has impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me present to you the King Kong of consciousness, Dr. Umar.
Black Queens forever. Black Queens forever. Stockholm, Sweden. Make some noise, Black family. All right. So I finally made it. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. And so I want to thank our young brother Dave. Give him a hand. You know, when these events are put on, you only see the finished product, but you never see all the hard work that goes into these events. And so with that being said, I think you should give a round of applause to all the organizers who made this happen. And so now that I'm in Sweden, this is my first visit, it won't be my last, and I'm going to have to study and get to know you, because with every family I have throughout the diaspora, they have their own unique culture. Even London is different from our Birmingham family. Birmingham is different from my Manchester family. My Manchester family has a slightly different energy than Luton or Liverpool. And so I'm going to see how Sweden fits in with the other African communities of Europe and the other African communities around the world. I'm going to study your bunny hopping tendencies. I'm going to study your white Jesus tendencies, because one of the most interesting things is traveling the world and still seeing a propensity towards the worship of our deity in the image of our enemy. It is amazing that there are African people in the world who still worship God in the image of the colonizer, and will argue with you as to why color don't matter. And then I argue that if color doesn't matter, why did the white man have to destroy all the original black Madonnas and children? All the original statues of Jesus were African. The original paintings were African. One of the oldest ones is in Kemet, and I have a replica of it. Jesus and the 12 disciples, and everyone is African. So if it didn't matter, why did they have to hide the real ones? Color does matter. And one thing I need all of you to understand is we will never get free as an African people if we don't get comfortable being proud to be black. If you don't get comfortable being proud to be black, we never get free. If you don't get comfortable putting African people first, we never get free. Religion, and I'm not against it. I have no problem with you being a Christian. The Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Garvey was a Christian. Henry Highland Garnett, one of the fathers of Pan-Africanism, he was a pastor. Alexander Crummell, another father of Pan-Africanism, he was an Episcopalian minister. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, the first black man to say God was black. He was a bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Malcolm X was a Muslim. Sekou Touré of Guinea was a Muslim. So I don't have a problem with you being Muslim or Christian. I only have a problem if you allow the people in your religion to brainwash you into thinking you don't have a right to be proud to be African. that's when your religion becomes an enemy to African people. I hope we don't have any religious narcissists in the room. You know what a religious narcissist is? If you're not Muslim, I can't work with you. If you're not Muslim, you less than me. If you're not a saved Christian, I can't work with you. You less than me. That's when your religion becomes tribalism. And once your religion becomes tribalism, your religion becomes an enemy of all African people. Now, when I look around this room, I see different complexions, but we still one race. When I look around this room, I see different levels of pigmentation, but we're still one race. And one thing we have to deal with, because it is a concern everywhere in the world, and I've been just about everywhere, and that concern is us creating tribes based on the amount of melanin in our skin. The first color on the red, black, and green flag of the Honorable Marcus Garvey is red, because it is the blood that makes us African. It is the blood. So some of us are dark, some of us are lighter, some tan, some brown, some butter almond, some butter pecan, some chocolate, some fudge, some butterscotch, some agave, some cinnamon, some nutmeg, some African vanilla, and some African lemonade. But we still one people. And for my mixed race Africans, I see you no different than anybody else in the room. You got a white dad or a white mom, but your other parent is African, you all right with me as long as you identify as African on a full-time basis. You cannot be a half-African, where you are black at the Dr. Umar event, but you all white with your Jewish grandparents on the weekend. I will reject you if you try to be a part-time African. You must be black all the time, not some of the time. I remember I was speaking at the anniversary of the Manchester Conference in Manchester, England. And there was a mixed race sister there, and she wanted to bring her mother into the Pan-Afrikan Conference. And I said, young lady, your mother is not welcome here. This is a family event. She said, but this is my mother, and I respect your mother. But this is a black family event. She can't come here. Well, why not? Because she is Snow Bunny. And so my mixed race Africans, you got to get comfortable letting your Caucasian family or your Asian family or your Arab family, your Jewish family, you got to get comfortable letting them know, listen now, I didn't ask to come into this world, y'all made me half. So guess what? Half of the things I go to, you can't come. And you got to make it clear to them. And the other thing, my mixed race Africans, you got to let Africans who are not mixed race understand that you stand 10 toes down as an African. Don't let nobody play with your identity. Don't let nobody manipulate your consciousness. Don't let nobody make you feel less than any of the rest of us because you mix. It's not being full or half. It's about your conviction and your contribution to the struggle. I can name all kind of mixed race Africans who are my heroes. Some of my greatest heroes were mixed race. My cousin, the Honorable Frederick Douglass, the greatest leader to ever walk American soil, was mixed race. His mother, my Aunt Harriet, was raped by the slave master. It ain't his fault. Some argue that the prophet Nat Turner, the greatest revolutionary to walk on American soil, he was the product of a raped white father. We're not responsible for how we come into the world, but we're responsible what we do once we hear. Pan-Africanism means oneness. Oneness. And in order to get there, we got to stop the tribalism. The petty differences between the Eritrean and the Ethiopian, we got to get over it. The petty differences between the Yoruba and the Igbo, we got to get over it. The petty differences between the Maasai and the Kikuyu, we got to get over it. The petty differences between the Muslim and the Christian, we got to get over it. The light skin and the dark skin, we got to get over it. Chancellor Williams, if you haven't read the book, The Destruction of African Civilization, by Chancellor Williams, you should read it. Chancellor Williams, who's now an ancestor, was one of our Grand Master teachers, and in the beginning of the book, he talks about the fact that the white man was able to do what he did in Africa during slavery and colonization because we as African people were already practicing tribalism and divisionism. The white man did not introduce conflict into African people. We were already conflicting with each other. All he did was exploit the pre-existing differences. That's all he does now. In Sweden, he's going to exploit the pre-existing differences. The question is, how long is it going to take before we hate racism more than we hate each other? Because that's the problem. Many of us hate each other more than we hate racism. One of the biggest reasons we don't elect the best people for the job in Africa during election season, or the Caribbean during election season, or in Central and South America, or the United States during election season is because of tribalism. I know the person representing my tribe might not be the best person for the job, but guess what? I don't want one of them other people in charge. So I'm going to vote corruption into office. I know he ain't going to do a good job, but I'd rather my tribe be in charge. You cannot be a tribalist and a Pan-Africanist. That's a contradiction. You can be proud of your kingdom. You should be. Be proud of your flag, your colors, your language, your culture. Be proud of it. Diversity is a good thing. We don't have to be a monolith. We don't have to be a utopia, but we must operate on oneness. Marcus Garvey said, put the race first. He said the white man is a white man before he's a Christian. The Arab is an Arab before he's a Muslim. You never see the white man stand with another Christian before he stands with a white man. You never see the Arab stand with another race before he stands with the Arab. But we will stand with people who don't look like us or care about us because they pray the way we do. That is religious immaturity. Your religion should support your political struggle. And if your religion doesn't support your political struggle, your religion is an instrument of the devil. We are at war for the survival of African people. Wherever I go in the world, I see 4 constants. 4 constants everywhere in the world. I was in Australia a few months ago for the first time. Same constants. Africa, the same constants. Europe, Asia, United States, the same constants. And what are the 4 constants? White Jesus is one of them. Black children being raised to pray to the enemy's image. And you got to be careful for those of y'all who have children, because you might say, Dr. Umar, I don't have no white Jesus in my house, but do you got white doll babies and toys in your house? Are there white cartoons all in your house? Is your black baby being raised on a steady diet of racial inferiority? Because let me tell you something about the brain. And as a psychologist, I guess I know something about the brain. Everything that's stored in your mind is stored as an image. Image. Your mind don't store words. Your mind converts those words into images. Your mind is an archetype building machine. Not only is your mind an archetype building machine, your mind is a generalization machine. You know what that means? Anything you feed the mind, it will generalize it to everything else. If a black child is raised to believe God was white, the mind of the African child will assume all white people are divine. And if everyone is inferior to the Almighty, and the Almighty is white, then black people naturally should be inferior to the European. In America, we talk about the interiorization of black children. And I have to often let the community know Our children were not taught to hate themselves by white public schools. Not initially. They were taught to hate themselves at black Sunday schools at church. We gave them white Jesus. We gave them white angels. We gave them white prophets. And you wonder why they feel inferior. Because if God is white, by contraindication, the devil must already be black. And you know what's interesting about this? When you go throughout Africa, when you go throughout antiquity, when you go throughout our history, when you go throughout our culture, when you look at the artifacts in the anthropology, you find what? That the image of every divinity in ancient history looked like us. There is no white prophet nowhere in the ancient world. Nowhere. Everybody was black. Buddha was black. Krishna was black. Show me a white God. But you come to the black community and you see nothing but white Jesuses all over the wall. I remember I was in Ethiopia and I love me some Ethiopia. And I'm looking for a picture of a black Jesus and couldn't find one in Ethiopia. Snow bunnies everywhere. But I thank my Ethiopian ancestors because when I got to the airport, in Addis Ababa, I went into one cultural shop, plane was about to board. I said, I cannot leave Africa without a black Christ. And he had this beautiful leather, sheets of leather, where there was paintings of different scenes from the Bible. And I finally found 3 of them in a row. Chocolate Christ with a nappy afro. And I still have them today. Black power! We want black power! Pan-Africanism means that we identify as being African first. Pan-Africanism means that I'm African who happens to be a Muslim. I'm African who happens to be a Christian. I'm an African who happens to be a Swede. I'm an African who happens to be a Brit. I'm an African who happens to be a Mason or an Elk or an American. African is first. Why? Because God made you African. Everything else you made and your family made. Your family made you a Christian. Your family made you a Muslim. People give up Islam every day. I'm one of them. People give up Christianity every day. People give up their citizenship every day. W.E.B. Du Bois renounced his American citizenship and went to Ghana at the invitation of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to work on his Encyclopedia Africana. He gave up his citizenship. You can give up being Swedish. You can give up your religion. You can give up your profession. You can give up everything you belong to except your race. God made you African and there's nothing you can do about it. And my beautiful African sisters, you stay trying to do something about it through your hair. Weave season. Ladies, if it ain't nappy, I ain't happy. And sisters, one day you got to give up the processed hair. You have to. You know why? Not just for cultural and psychological reasons, not just to raise the self-esteem of our daughters, but a big reason why our African women have to give up your weaves and perms and relaxers. It's literally killing you. Cancer, because of them chemicals. Do you know the stuff they sell you to put in your hair? They're not allowed to sell it to their own women in Korea and China. They're not allowed to sell it to their own women because of its toxicity. But they'll send it here and you'll buy it and put it on your head. I just saw a study the other day. They looked at the top 10 weave and perm products in the world for black women. Top 10, and all 10 of them had carcinogens in them. And now we got black women with all these fibroid tumors y'all never had before. Breast tumors y'all never had before. Brain cancer y'all never had before. Literally dying to look like a snow bunny. And so ladies, I need you to start working yourself back to natural. Start working yourself back there. You can go a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. If it was up to me, I would tell you to go cold turkey. That's what we do in psychotherapy. When you come in and you're an alcoholic, We're not going to wean you off of alcohol a little bit at a time. We're going to cold turkey that ass. I want to cold turkey you. I want you to go home tonight with the spirit of the ancestors and just shave it all off bald. I want a bald head on my sisters. I want a big forehead on my sisters. Shave it off, because what you need to understand is, as long as you keep on nursing that bald spot, it ain't going to grow. That ringworm patch ain't gonna leave. You gotta shave it all off and let it grow back. I'm telling you. And what African women don't understand is y'all wear all this extra hair, y'all don't even need it. Because in African culture, beauty is not in the hair, beauty is in the spirit. Come on, man. You don't need a bunch of hair. Your beauty is in your face. Cut off that fake stuff and let us see them pretty eyes and that cheekbones you got and them sexy lips and that little cute little African nose, that butter almond skin. And brothers, we can't laugh at the sisters because we the reason they wearing the perm. I'm gonna say that again. Black men are the reason black women wear the perm. Because we don't want a woman who looks authentically African. We want her to have a European phenotype. Y'all know I'm telling the truth, brothers. You will laugh at a sister with a weave, but you won't date one without it. Hypocrites. And I hope to God, as I stand here in the presence of all my African ancestors throughout the world, I hope to God that we ain't got a single bunny hopper in this audience. Bunny hoppers, raise your hand. You low self-esteem, self-hating, degenerate, spiritually incarcerated parasites. Raise your hands, bunny hoppers. All these beautiful black women and you want to go get you a Scandinavian steak. You got these sisters who can make you Somali food and Ethiopian food and Eritrean food and Ghanaian food and Nigerian food and Congolese and Gambian. Now you want some custard. A nice mayonnaise and cheese hoagie. White women can't cook. And sisters, don't you date an ex-bunny hopper unless he has been redeemed spiritually. You don't let him crawl out of the cave and crawl in your bed. Sit his ass back. Since you want to play in the ice, sleep in the ice. And black woman, you better not be bunny hopping. Because there is nothing more disrespectful to our ancestors than what we've been through these past 500-600 years than for a black woman. With the history of sexual exploitation at the hands of the European, there's nothing more insulting to the ancestors than for you, my beautiful African sisters, to spread your wings and let a devil plant his ancestors in your holy ground. Now some of y'all saying, but wait a minute, Doc, you know a lot of us got white families. I don't care! You're either Pan-Africanist or you're not. I didn't tell you to hate nobody. Love your white relatives, love your white sister-in-law, your brother-in-law, love them! But be loyal to Africa and African people, that's all we're saying. Don't you find it interesting we're the only people not allowed to be proud? Nobody else has to go through this. Nobody asks the European Jews why there's nothing but Jews in your synagogues and in your community. Nobody accuses them of being racist for being racially exclusive. Nobody asks the Arabs why you don't have no non-Arab people involved in your situation. Only when African people say we want this to be an all-African thing, or you must hate people, but we have no history. There is no history of African people practicing genocide against non-African people. Where? Where? People say, well, Dr. Umar, they say you hate. Where did I say it? Quote me. Hate? I don't preach hate. I'm an ambassador for African people, a statesman for my race, but I'm not going to waste my time explaining it to nobody. If you think I hate you because I want my men to stay with our women because we got to rebuild our people, then so be it. You have to learn how to be unapologetic. The only thing I ask of my enemies is, if you want to disagree with me, that's your right. But disagree with what I said, not what you assume. If you disagree because I don't support bunny hopping, I'm good. But don't say I hate you because of it. If you want to disagree with me because I don't support same-sex relationships, that's fine. But don't say I ever told you to hate somebody because of their sexual orientation, because I didn't become a psychologist to practice hate. I became a psychologist to help our people heal. And healing is something we got to do. Because none of us went through any psychotherapy after slavery or colonization. We went right from the trauma into a new society with the same people who traumatized us. And don't let the children of the colonizer manipulate you into thinking they have no responsibility for what their ancestors did to ours. Because they love to tell you, well, I'm not a racist. Well, racism is not about an individual decision. Racism is a group system. There are no opt-outs. You don't opt out of racism. If you're white and you live in Scandinavia, you benefit from the oppression of African people. There is no opt-out. You protect your privilege and you protect the racism against Africans. And you don't do nothing structurally to level the playing field for my people. Well, I fight against homelessness. That's a symptom. I fight to keep the African immigrants in Sweden. That's a symptom. I fight against gang violence on the streets of Sweden. That's a symptom. But are you dealing with the causes? What caused the gang violence? What caused the homelessness? What caused the mass incarceration? What caused the unemployment? White people will play you if you don't know the difference between a symptom and a problem. They'll feed your symptoms all day because feeding the symptom does nothing about the core problem. You ain't racist? When are you going to fight for the redistribution of wealth in Sweden so black people get as much as the others? You ain't racist? Why don't you fight for reparations because the Swedes was involved in that slave trade at some point? They owe us. Where's your white reparations movement? You ain't racist? Are you fighting for black people to have some of their own public schools in Sweden? More black teachers in the school in Sweden? What are you doing structurally to level the playing field? Nothing at all, because white privilege can only be upheld as long as white people control resources, opportunities, and privileges. Nobody in this room can be racist, because all of us in this room would have to be racist. And we would have to have control over something white people need in Sweden that we can use to practice discrimination against them. Do we control the criminal justice system in this country? Do we control the school system in this country? Do we control the economic system in this country? So how the hell can you be racist? You can be a bigot. You cannot like white people because they white. You can be a bigot. That's emotion. But racism ain't just bigotry. Racism is not just prejudice. Racism is prejudice plus power. Without the power, there's no racism. But see, what white people do is they always have to turn themselves into a victim so they never get held accountable for their wickedness. Did you hear what I said? I said Caucasians always have to turn themselves into a victim so they never get held accountable. There was an article that was written not too long ago where a white woman said calling them Karen was the same as using the N-word. You must be out of your damn mind. Are you kidding me? Do you know what the N-word has done to African people and how it was used to dehumanize us? Karen ain't never been used to dehumanize you. And half of y'all got a real name, Karen. Oh, I'm afraid of the threat of black violence. When have black people ever pursued y'all down? Y'all the ones with the neo-Nazi groups. But you always want to look at, oh, the music sounds violent. You know how they do it. Well, I really want to understand what you Africans are talking about. You already know because y'all control the system. Why are you asking me to explain something your grandfather created? And then they always want to come amongst us to fight against racism. I want to come fight with y'all. No! The best thing a Caucasian can do to help African people is go back to your community, go back to your neighborhood, and fight with the people who control the systems that oppress us. Why are you hanging with the oppressed black people when you're related to the powerful white people? You should be home fighting your grandpa, your uncle, your cousin. What you down here with us for? Because you want to be worshipped like a white Jesus Savior. And that's why we can't have white people in black organizations, not because we hate them, but because we as African people still have an inferiority complex. And if you drop white people amongst us subconsciously, because you got that Jesus buried in there, that white Jesus, you'll start looking to white people to solve your problems. That's why we believe in self-determination. Because slavery and colonization took our legs away. We don't think we can walk on our own no more. And the last thing we need is white people bringing the proverbial crutches back. I'd rather we struggle on our knees until we can stand than walk with crutches given by your colonizer. Because it confuses our children, you know. When they see black people in the 21st century still looking to white people to solve their problems, they say, well, wait a minute, y'all said slavery was wrong, so why are you volunteering for it again? Black Sweden, y'all need to start a study group movement. We got to bring the study groups back. Forget YouTube, that's not a conversation. We need to be in this room and we need to be studying. First chapter, Kwame Nkrumah, neocolonialism, last stage of imperialism. Carter G. Woodson, miseducation of the Negro. Amos Wilson, Garveyism in the age of globalism. Robin Walker, When We Ruled. Start reading, study. Because the 5 assessments of revolutionary activity is what? Consciousness. How learned are you? You gotta have the knowledge. Now don't become an intellectual masturbator now. Because some of y'all a bunch of intellectual masturbators. You wanna sit around and debate information, but you never wanna do anything with it. Y'all know people like that? They got all the information, all the books, all the stats, all the things. They can quote this and quote this. And then when you say, okay, it's time for us to organize. Oh, well, I'm busy. Be careful with them intellectual masturbators. Because one thing I've learned with all my years in black consciousness, the people who know the most tend to do the least. The people who know the most tend to do the least. But that's okay, we can still use them. Since all you want to do is be an intellectual masturbator, we're going to put you over here in the research committee. Your job is just to supply information. You don't come to no organizational meetings because you're too lazy to do any work. So we're going to put you in the corner, and when we need information, we'll make you go get it. You can be part of the think tank, but you're not part of the activism because you're too lazy to do any activism. We got to be able to separate people and use them where they belong. Everybody don't belong to everything. Bring back the study groups. Black brothers, we got to stop playing with our sisters' hearts and emotions.
Can you say it again?
Stop misleading them. Sister says stop playing with our hearts and emotions. Listen to me, sisters. I'm talking to my queens. Hold on to your royal cookie like your life depended on it. Don't be giving your cookies away to these men if they didn't earn it. A woman with less sexual discipline than the man she dating gonna be in trouble. Keep your cookies to yourself. In fact, unplug the oven, turn the gas off until you find somebody worthy of the royal cookie. Because every man you lay with imprints his DNA on your consciousness. Did you know that? When a woman lays with a man, a piece of his energy stays with her forever. No, this is biologically true. Look it up. Every man you ever been with is still with you on a certain level. Think about that. And some of y'all done laid down with some coons. What you doing baking cookies with a man who ain't building for the community? I don't understand, my sisters. We ain't got no independent schools in Sweden, and you out here baking cookies with these lazy political brothers? No. We need jobs, and we got crime, and you out here making love. We don't need to be making no love. We need to be making a difference. The love can wait. That's why I say consciousness over the cookies. Politics over the punani. Revolution over the romance. Institutions over the intimacy. And brothers, you got to be strong. You can't be weak. We got to be spiritually strong as men. We cannot be slaves to the cookies. I know the sister coming in looking good. Got her Ethiopian perfume on. That Eritrean food. That tight Ghanaian outfit on them curves. Smelling like cinnamon raisin cookies and butterscotch Cinnabon biscuits. But brother, you got to conquer your lower nature and say, not tonight, my beautiful sister. And don't cheat. Because when she start walking out the door and those hips be going, boom, 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 Cinnabons bouncing, boom, boom. You say, wait a minute, I can work tomorrow. Don't be weak, my brother, for the Cinnabons. You must be strong. Lord have mercy. I want to tell you a story about Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He was the father of Negro History Week. While the Honorable Marcus Garvey was in jail, Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded Negro History Week, February 7th of 1926. He was one of the first Africans to get a PhD from Harvard University. But he felt that Harvard University helped to teach him how to hate himself. So he started an organization, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, becoming one of the first black men in modern history, one of the first Africans to systematically study who we were, because colonization tried to destroy our history. They said we were nothing. And then in 1970, Negro History Week became Black History Month, and next year it'll be 100 years old. I want you to read Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro. He said, if you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry about his actions. If you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry about his thoughts. You don't have to tell him where to go. He will go without being told, because that has been his condition. When company comes, you don't have to send him to the back room. He will go automatically, because that's the way you trained him. And when he gets to the back room, if there is no door to exit out of, he will make one. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that we as African people around the world are in the midst of a psychological holocaust. The chains have been removed, but they remain on our minds. In America, we are $2 trillion people. 2 trillion. And we ain't got a single independent black community. How can that be with all these billionaires? All these multi-millionaires, and not a city in America with a black school we own, a black hospital we own, a black bank we own, a black supermarket we own. Yeah, we got banks, we got schools, we got some supermarkets, we got some hospitals, but we don't have all four in the same place. No independent community with all this money. Self-hate. Depending on white people to do for you what you should do for yourself. So I see white Jesus everywhere I go around the world, and I see single black mothers raising boys by themselves all over the world. Brothers, we got to change that. In Sweden, we should have a rites of passage program Every African parent, I don't care where they come from Angola to Antigua to Alabama, I don't care where they come from, every African boy in Stockholm should have a black man assigned to him. If the father's not in his life, if the father's in jail, if the father can't get into the country for immigration reasons, no problem. There's a brother here who's going to be a mentor to your son. We need to put a body on every black boy. That's how you stop the violence. That's how you guarantee academic success. Understand something. The heart of Pan-Africanism is action. The heart of Pan-Africanism is action. Anytime someone tells you they're a Pan-Africanist, your next question should be, what are you doing to advance the race? That's your next question. Oh, you a Pan-Africanist? What are you doing to advance the race in Stockholm? What are you doing to advance the race in the Caribbean? What are you doing to advance the race in Finland, in Norway, in France? Because you cannot call yourself a Pan-Africanist if you're not doing a damn thing. The heart of Pan-Africanism is action. There was once a black man. He was a Pan-Africanist. Booker T. Washington. Marcus Garvey read his book, Up From Slavery, on his way back to Jamaica from England. And it was Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery that motivated Marcus Garvey to build the largest black organization in modern history, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. So Garvey was so impressed with Booker T that he decided to go to America to meet Booker T, because Garvey wanted Booker T to help him build a Tuskegee University back home in Jamaica. But when the Honorable Marcus Garvey showed up in America, Booker T had just died a few months earlier. So Garvey said, okay, I'm going to go on a fundraising tour and raise some money and go back to Jamaica and build my Tuskegee on my own. But by the time Garvey got back to New York City, the Pan-Africanists in New York begged Marcus Garvey to stay in America. And Garvey had only come to visit, not to stay, but he decided to. And within a year, they had the Black Starliner Steamship Corporation. And then they had the Negro World newspaper. And then in August of 1920, Mr. Garvey had the first International Convention of the African Peoples of the World. August of 1920, Madison Square Garden, New York City. There's been 3 Madison Square Gardens since then. The largest organization, mass gathering of Pan-Africanists in the world up until that time when this flag was adopted to be the official flag of African people, red, black, and green. And the reason they gave us that flag, and by the way, every society of African people in the world, every major society of African people in the world was represented at the Garvey Convention when that flag was created. Because at that time, most African countries was under colonialism. Only Ethiopia and Liberia were independent, if you really want to consider Liberia independent. And the white people had a famous song on the radio, and that song was called Every Race Has a Flag Except the Coon. That was the name of a hit song. Every race has a flag except the Coon. Because remember, 99% of all black countries had a British flag planted, a French flag planted, a Dutch flag, a German flag planted. And that's where they gave us the red, black, and green. But Booker T. Washington was born a slave in West Virginia. His mother was raped by the slave master. When he became of age, he wanted to get an education. So he heard of a historically black college called Hampton Institute in Virginia. So he walks from West Virginia to Virginia. And when he gets to Hampton Institute, he could not afford to pay tuition. So he asked for an opportunity to work himself through college, which they allowed him after he impressed them with being able to clean an assignment they gave him to test his commitment to getting his education. When Booker T finishes at Hampton, The white principal gets a phone call from the black community in Tuskegee, Alabama. And the black community in Tuskegee, Alabama was asking the white principal at Hampton, do you have a Negro who can come to Alabama and teach black people how to make a living? Because even though slavery ended a generation ago, our people are still backwards and uneducated. So Booker T. Washington takes the job in Tuskegee. When he gets there, there's no school. So he uses an old church, an old barn, an old storefront. When the students of Tuskegee show up and they ask Booker T. Washington, where is the lecture hall? Where is the cafeteria? Where is the dormitory? Booker T. Washington said, you're standing on it. And he made them roll up their sleeves. And the students of Tuskegee Institute made their own bricks. And after they made their own bricks, they literally built their campus brick by brick. They sold their own clothes, grew their own food. They became so famous for making bricks that the white construction companies would come and buy bricks from Booker T. Washington students. And then Booker T. Washington said, I need a science teacher. He heard of a black man from Iowa, the first of his race to get a PhD in agricultural science, Dr. George Washington Carver, who was considered the top scientist in the world at the time. Not black, in the world. And Booker T. Washington goes to speak with Dr. George Washington Carver, who was also born a slave. In fact, George Washington Carver had his penis removed from his body. Excuse me, ladies, he was castrated by the white family that took care of him because they feared he would impregnate their daughter. So they removed his penis. That's why he never had children. And if you ever hear Dr. George Washington Carver on audio, you can find some audio on YouTube. He has a very, very high-pitched voice due to the lack of testosterone in his body resulting from the castration. And when Booker T. Washington asked him to come to Tuskegee, he turned down all the money that the Ford Foundation was offering him. The pharmaceutical companies were offering him. The engineering firms were offering him. He turned it down and went to Tuskegee. And when he got there, he asked Booker T. Washington the same question that the other children had asked him before. He said, Booker, where's my lecture hall? Where's my staff apartment? Where's my farm? Where's my botany clinic? And these two slaves looked at each other, ex-slaves, enslaved Africans. And Booker T. Washington looked at George Washington Carver and said, all we have is what you see. And Dr. George Washington Carver, born a slave, castrated as a child, goes to the trash dump of the students of Tuskegee. And from the garbage, he takes iron, copper, aluminum, wood, paper, from the garbage of students. He invents over 500 products with the peanut. From the garbage of students, he invents over 300 products from the soybean. From the garbage of students, hundreds of products from the sweet potato. African people, let me ask you something. How is it we came from ancestors who had nothing and did everything? God has blessed us with everything, and we ain't doing much of nothing. Psychological slavery is our problem. Marcus Garvey said, don't take the kinks out of your mind. Excuse me, don't take the kinks out of your hair, take the kinks out of your mind. Take the kinks out of your mind. Until African people start thinking like African people instead of European imitations, we will never be free. Frederick Douglass said, it's better to raise strong children than to repair broken men. W.E.B. Du Bois said, if we put half the energy into building for ourselves that we do into begging from white people, we might be free already. So the question for Stockholm, Sweden tonight, or whatever section of Sweden you come from, whatever section of Scandinavia, whatever part of Europe, to whatever island in the Caribbean or nation in Africa you're going back to, what can we do together right now to begin the process of African racial reconstruction? The heart of Pan-Africanism is action. Black women, y'all need to be meeting at least once a month on what y'all going to do for all these black girls in Sweden. How are we going to teach them self-love so they don't feel like they got to have a weave or a perm to be beautiful? Black men, we need to come up with a rites of passage. How are we going to teach our boys to stay loyal to black women? But how are you going to teach them that when you're not even loyal to black women? And for those of you with children, be careful with the school systems and their special ed programs. Stop it. Well, they said he's autistic. They said he got ADHD. They said he got a learning problem. Well, guess what? He might, but you can't prove it at 5 years old. He might, but you can't prove it at 3 years old. He might, but you can't prove it at 6. Slow down and stop letting these white folks in Europe brainwash you into thinking your child has a disability before they're old enough to prove what they can do. And do not medicate your children for psychiatric reasons ever. Ever. ADHD is a scam. Do y'all have ADHD here? For the children, y'all better stop it.
Preach, brother.
ADHD is a Wall Street drug company scam to make money off black boys who are not being taught discipline by their fathers at home. It is not a psychiatric problem. It is a sociological phenomenon. Because if you are, raise your hand if you are a parent. Raise your hand if you are a parent. Okay, almost a half of you. Listen to me, parents. After teaching your child to love themselves, your next job is to teach them discipline. And you better make sure they have discipline. Because any African boy or any African girl living in a European society who doesn't have discipline will be destroyed by that society. Let me say it again.
Oh, yes.
Any African boy, any African girl growing up in a European society who doesn't have discipline will be destroyed by that society. You can't afford to spoil your son. You can't afford to spoil your daughter. You can't afford to take it easy on them. The white man will crush him. You know what I call ADHD? Ain't no daddy at home disorder. Woo! Because that's what it is. That's what it is. Most of our boys diagnosed with ADHD don't have an active father figure in their life. It's the man's job to turn the boys to men. And when the men not in the house and our sisters are left to try to do a man's job, it ain't fair to the sisters. And the boys don't get what they need. They don't get that masculine instruction. And they go to school with no discipline, or they go to school dreaming about when they're going to see daddy again. And the school don't care how your child feel. I said the school don't care how your child feel. The school only cares how your child behaves. Have you noticed that? Yes. They don't talk about depression in black boys. They don't care if he's depressed. They don't talk about sadness. They don't talk about suicidality. They don't talk about anxiety. No! They talk about he can't sit. He can't focus. They more concerned with your child sitting still than learning. Because in a European situation, education for black boys is pre-incarceration instruction. They prepare them to go to jail unless we do something different with our children. No Adderall, no Ritalin, no Concerta, no Cycler. Do not give your child any of them drugs. And don't get them tested for ADHD either, or conduct disorder. No, no, no. Why? Because if you get them tested, they can force the medication. And if you don't give them the medication, they will confiscate your children. They do it in London. They do it in Paris. They do it all across America. I'm pretty sure they're doing it in Sweden.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Taking children from black parents because you was foolish enough to give them permission to evaluate your child. Never for behavior. Never for behavior. Our children don't sit still because they ain't been taught, not because they got a psychiatric problem. They don't sit still because they got things they need to talk about, not because they have a psychiatric problem. Stop saying yes to white people when it comes to your children. Learn how to say no. There's nobody wants your son on meds. You tell her to put her son on meds. You do it, bunny. And don't let them make you think something wrong with black boys. Black boys can learn like the other boys in Sweden. Yep. They can learn. You know why they're having so much trouble? Because they're being treated differently. They're being mistreated by the snow bunny. Oh, well, we think black boys need a special school. No! The only reason why black boys need a special school is because white women can't treat them the same way they treat the white boys. And they got you thinking something wrong with your son. Nothing's wrong with your son. There's something wrong with the system. But they never going to address that because white privilege designs the system so the black boys struggle while the white boys succeed. They can't give your black son an equal opportunity with their white son in Sweden. Why? Because if they level the playing field for one generation, if they level the playing field between black girls and white girls in Sweden for one generation, guess who might be running the society in one generation? They know how smart we are. They know where we come from. We invented the gas mask. We invented the refrigerated truck. We invented the radio transmitter. We invented the stoplight. We invented the technology for the cell phone and the internet. Not them. They know what you can do, so they will never give our children a fair opportunity. That's why we have to make sure they get one. There should be a Saturday program for African children in Sweden. There should be a Saturday school where we teach them who they are. Cultural enrichment and racial indoctrination. Indoctrination is not a bad word. Children got to be taught who they are. We're not asking them what you want to be. Well, mommy, I think I want to be a little girl. We don't do that. That's not African. In African culture, we understand that God don't make mistakes. If you came out your mother as a woman, that was a divine decision. If you came out your mother as a father, that was a divine decision. You don't wake up one day, Dwayne Wade, and decide you want to switch your gender. And I ain't got no issues with Dwayne. He had to go through some cancer, and the brother is healed. I'm happy for Dwayne Wade. I think he's one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but I respectfully disagree with the manner in which he allowed that boy to destroy his life like that. And by the way, brothers and sisters, the whole LGBT thing, that was not about sexual freedom and liberation. That was about African genocide and population control. African genocide and population control. Donald Trump gave a speech the other day to the joint houses of Congress. And in his speech a few days ago, President Trump, who's an enemy of African people, so is Elon Musk rat. And in his speech, Donald Trump said that we're going to reduce corruption in the U.S. government because too much money is being spent on things that money don't need to be spent on. And he specifically named the African country of Lesotho. I've been to Lesotho. I've spoken at the university in Lesotho, which is a small country inside of South Africa, right? And Donald Trump, I forget how much it was.
8 million.
Was it 8 million?
Yeah.
Donald Trump said 8 million for Lesotho. And I forget what it was. In fact, I wrote it in my phone. Let me pull it up. People call me from America. They can't live without me. Look at me. You know I'm in another country. What you calling me for? Leave me alone! Here we go, Trump. Where's it at? Where you at, Lesotho? I got to get back to Lesotho, too. $8 million. This is what Donald Trump said. According to the President of the United States, the U.S. government was spending $8 million a year in Lesotho to promote LGBTQ.
Yeah, man.
Let me tell you why that's interesting. Because when I was in Lesotho, guess what I learned? Lesotho has one of the highest HIV/AIDS rates in the world.
Yep.
Lesotho has one of the lowest life expectancy rates in the world. Now we know why the US government was spending $8 million in Lesotho for LGBTQ. Because for my brothers, in case you don't know, a homosexual African male in this world has a 50% chance of dying before his 50th birthday through the contraction of HIV and AIDS. So now you know why the government was spending $8 million on homosexuality. Because they know that the more African men we convert to homosexuality, the greater the likelihood they will contract HIV and AIDS. And as the black men die off, there won't be enough black men to do what? Reproduce with our women. This is genocide. If you homosexual, I don't hate you. I still love you. You African. But you got to wake up to the realization that you're being used as a weapon of mass destruction against African people. Why was Barack Obama sending Kamala Harris to Uganda, in Rwanda, in Liberia, threatening the heads of African states that if you don't make gay marriage normal, we're going to cut off your funding? Why do you care if gay marriage is legal or not in Africa? I need it to be legal so we can push the AIDS and push the death and push the genocide. And why? Because half of all Africans on the continent are 30 years old or under. And the white power structure is afraid that Africa may rise very soon. Most Africans are the youth, and they are afraid of the youth because they can't control them. So what do they want to do? Kill them before they grow.
Yes.
We got to stop playing checkers and start playing chess. As I prepare to wind up, because we want to do Q&A when I'm done, I want to give you all my cell number. Take your phone out. My parents, if you ever need to have a consultation with me, you can text me on WhatsApp, or you can text me direct. If anybody needs to reach me for anything, you can text me on WhatsApp or text me direct. But I want you to have my number, especially those of y'all who work with children, raising children. If you need any advice, you got your own psychologist you can call on, your own school psychologist. I'm going to give you my number 3 times. Ladies, it ain't that type of party. Unless you're 5'5", extra thick in the thighs. I'm playing. I'm gonna give it to you 3 times. +1 is the code for the US, right? So make sure you put a +1. Hold the 0 down, and the plus sign will automatically appear. Just push 0, hold it until you see the plus sign. +1 215 989 9858. Again, +1 215 989 9858. Last time for my special ed parents, I'm picking with you. +1 215 989 9858. When we're completely done tonight, we're going to take some photos. You're going to get a chance to take a photo. Yes. Make sure you text me the photo with your name and your country or your city. So if you're Denmark, if you're Finland, if you're UK, if you're Jamaica, if you're Ghana, so I can store you in my phone. So when I come back to Sweden or back to the country where you're visiting from, you will get the flyer before I get there. Okay? I want to say this. We are putting the finishing touches on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. That's a school we purchased 6 long years ago. And it took us 6 long years to get it fixed up, because we went through a lot of racism and a lot of scamming from our own people. But once we lay the tile down on the floor, when I get back to the States, God willing, we will apply for our certificate of occupancy. If all goes well, there will be a 2-day grand opening of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And it's going to be on September the 20th, Saturday, and September the 21st, Sunday, Kwame Nkrumah's solar return. There's also a solar eclipse on Sunday, September the 21st. So I want y'all to put that on your calendar, and I want you to save up some money so you can fly to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA, and drive 20 minutes or take an Uber 20 minutes from the airport to the front door of the FDMG Academy, which is a 20-minute drive from Philadelphia's airport. Wilmington, Delaware is the backyard of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I want you to come and bring your family, leave your snow bunnies, and bring your family and celebrate. Once we open up, we will be the first school in American history to begin operation in a standard school building, to be completely and totally financed by African people from around the diaspora. It's never been done before. And if any of you have donated, I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for helping us. When I come back to Sweden, my For Sisters Only Relationships and Dating book should be ready. And I'm going to have an all-sisters seminar to talk to y'all about love and relationships. And then I'm working on it for brothers only. And I got to talk to my brothers about love and relationships, because we got some problems, brothers, when it comes to loving our women the right way. Number one, domestic abuse. There's too much domestic abuse in the black community. There's domestic abuse in Africa. There's domestic abuse in Europe. There's the domestic abuse in the Caribbean. Black women are being beat by black men, and nothing is being done about it because we live in a male chauvinist society. Even African societies can practice male chauvinism sometimes. We learned it from the Europeans. And ladies, I need you to understand something. If a man puts his hand on you once, he will put his hand on you again. No man wakes up and decides to smack you in the moment. That is a seed that was sown in his head. It could have came from his father exemplifying that dysfunctional behavior. It could have came from his uncles exemplifying that dysfunctional behavior. It could have came from what he watches on TV or listens on the radio. But no man who hits you will ever stop after the first pop. You have to know how to walk out. I'm dead serious. Too many black women around the world are suffering from domestic abuse. The black churches are doing nothing about it. Black organizations aren't doing anything about it. Our elected officials aren't doing anything about it. And our grassroots organizations are not doing anything about it. Sooner or later, brothers, we're going to have to create a ski mask club. A brother with ski masks who come out in the middle of the night and take out the trash. I'm dead serious. We're going to have to start breaking some fingers and some toes. Because if we don't respect the black woman, we not deserving of respect. No people can climb any higher than the level of respect they have for their woman. The black woman is the measuring stick by which we determine our self-respect and by which others determine their respect for us. And black women, you have to demand that respect. Don't be so thirsty in the relationship that you tolerate disrespect just to have a man. Because one thing is certain and two things are for sure. Any woman who must have a man to feel like a woman will be a woman who will never be happy with the man she has. Word. Learn to be alone. The irony of romance is only people who are comfortable alone can be happy with somebody else. If you are somebody who cannot be alone, you always need somebody to distract you from yourself, you will be a horrible partner. Be careful. Because in Sweden, y'all got spiritual vampires floating all around it. You know what a spiritual vampire is? That's a psychologically unhealthy African. They could be Ethiopian, they could be American, they could be Jamaican, they could be Ghanaian, they could be Eritrean, they could be Gambian. And they look happy, they look healthy, they got their African clothes on, their African food, they talking pro-black. But let you make them upset. And you're gonna see another side of them you never knew existed. All the trauma of their childhood is going to come out in front of you all at once. And you've been dating that woman for 20 years. You've been dating that man for 10 years. And you had no idea they were as psychologically toxic as they are. Take your time in romance, because spiritual vampires are running around Sweden looking for somebody's life they can destroy. Take your time. And for the sake of time, I'll say this to my ladies. There's 4 types of dysfunctional men in Sweden. I want you to stay away from them. Most brothers in Sweden are good brothers. But you got 4 types who not. Stay away from them. You know who they are? The pimp, the player, the impregnator, the couch potato, and the imposter. 5. Guess who the pimp is, ladies? The pimp is the man who will use you. He will use you for your money. He will use you for your house. He will use you for your paycheck. This is the man who goes from woman to woman looking for you to subsidize his lifestyle. He don't give a damn about you. But if you got low self-esteem, he will use you like a sucker. Take every penny you got. And when he done sucking you dry of your finances and your credit, he'll leave you and find another sucker and do the same thing again. Don't be buying no man. If you one of them sisters who like to buy a man a whole bunch of stuff, You's a sucker disease. I'm serious. I'm serious. And no man should be letting no woman buy him a whole bunch of stuff. You only knew it for 2 weeks. You got a Mercedes, a new house. That's a thirsty queen trying to buy her way into a man's life. Don't do it, ladies. Be careful of the pimp. That's the pimp. He wants to use your money. And then you have the player. Who's the player, ladies? He don't want your money. He got his own. He don't want your car. He don't need your house. He's only looking for one thing in Sweden. And you know what that is, brothers? You looking for the royal cookie. He like butter almond. He like butter pecan. He like butterscotch. He like sweet brown sugar. He is the Stockholm cookie monster. And ladies, I need you to understand, my beautiful African queens. Every man got a little bit of a player in him until he find the right one. When we find the right one, we start letting the rest of them go. That's a real man, a mature man. I found my queen, I gotta let the rest of them go. If he's mature. But if he's dysfunctional, he never lets the extra women go. He keep them forever. He's a player for life. He does not believe in committing to one woman. You gotta watch out for them, ladies. Because some of y'all will spend 10, 20 years with the same man only to find out you've been dealing with a professional player your whole life. And then you got the couch potato. Lazy ass ninja. He don't work, he don't clean, he don't check homework, he don't go to the school, he don't do nothing but breathe. Ladies, why are you out here subsidizing a man's life? And I'm gonna say this to my mothers out here, because some of y'all got sons. Don't destroy somebody else's daughter's life because you raising an irresponsible black man. Too many black mothers are raising weak black men by spoiling their sons and not making them responsible, and that boy grows up and invades somebody's daughter's life and destroys her life because he's not used to providing. He's used to be provided for. Are y'all following me? Some of y'all women have dated men and they expect you to do everything because he had a mother who spoiled him and broke him. And that's why we need men in the lives of these boys. So you got your pimp, your player, your couch potato, and then you have the impregnator. The Stockholm impregnator. These are men who go around making babies with all kind of queens. And they never hang around to raise the baby. He is a baby making machine. How many kids you got, family? 7. How old are you? 23. How many baby moms you got? 4. Ladies, be careful of the impregnator, because he won't be around to raise the children. Shout out to my good brother Nick Cannon. Anyway. And the last one is the predator. This ain't nothing to laugh about. Ladies, there are men out there who will run a psychological mind game on you just to isolate you from your friends and family and begin to torture and abuse you. The predator is a psychological master. He don't have a PhD in psychology like Dr. Umar, but he understands women better than anybody. He can see a woman with low self-esteem. He can see a woman who's lonely. He can see a woman with daddy issues, and he treats you like a queen for the first couple months of that relationship, and then one day he wakes up and he reveals his real self. He don't want you hanging with your friends. He don't want you going to visit your mother. He wants to disrupt your whole life. He might not even want you to work. And then one day that first smack comes, and I'm telling you right now, ladies, don't let that smack change your life. I've seen too many women stay with bad men because those men were providers. I don't care how good of a provider is if he's putting your life at risk. And the last thing your daughter needs to see, and the last thing your son needs to see, is their mother getting knocked upside their head. Because a girl who watches a mother get abused is more likely to accept it herself. And a boy who watches his father abuse his mother is more likely to be an abuser himself. What? We have to deal with the dysfunction in the African home. And black men, if you believe in more than one woman, you have a right to. But be honest with the sisters and don't manipulate them into a plural relationship. Give a sister a right to choose. Because I'm not monogamous. I'm going to have 2 queens. I'm telling you that right now. 5, thick in the thighs. One might be butter almond, the next one chocolate. One might be fudge, another one caramel. One might be butterscotch, another one warm peanut butter. But I'm going to have me 2 queens. Oh, yes. Because I got a lot of work to do for the people. As I close, brothers and sisters, I want to give you a quote from my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. My family came to America in 1701. A black man named Bailey, stolen from the Igbo nation of Nigeria. He was brought to Talbot County, Eastern Shore, Maryland. He married a black woman by the name of Selah. Selah and my grandpa had Grandma Jenny in 1745. In 1774, Grandma Jenny gave birth to Grandma Betsy, born a slave, but she married a free black man, Grandpa Isaac. They had 12 children. One daughter was named Harriet, another daughter was named Young Betsy, my 5 times great-grandmother. These 2 sisters were raped by the slave master. As a result of that rape, in February of 1818, Aunt Harriet gave birth to the greatest black leader in American history. His name was Frederick Bailey. At the age of 20, Cousin Fred ran away from slavery out of Baltimore, through Delaware, through Philly, into New York, and he changed his name to hide his identity on the fugitive slave trail. So in 1838, Frederick Bailey became Frederick Douglass. In 1819, his half-brother and first cousin was born, my 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. Stephen and Fred were cousins because their mothers were sisters, but they were also half-brothers because the slave master raped those sisters. In 1861, the American Civil War begins. Frederick Douglass influences Abraham Lincoln to let black men fight in the war, or else you might lose your country to the Confederacy. Frederick didn't fight in the Civil War, but his 2 sons did, my cousins Lewis and Charles. They went to Boston, Massachusetts, and they enrolled in the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. If you've ever seen the movie Glory, Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman, that's the story of the Massachusetts 54th Colored Regiment. But guess who else was in that regiment? Sojourner Truth, the first black man to win a legal suit in court against a white man during slavery. Her grandson was in the 54th. Guess who else was in the 54th? Major Dr. Martin Robinson Delaney, grandfather of Pan-Africanism, first black man to be admitted into Harvard Medical School. He came up with the phrase, Africa for the Africans. Marcus Garvey took that from Martin Delaney, Africa for the Africans, and he added to those at home and those abroad. Delaney's son was in the 54th. My grandfather, Stephen and Charles, father and son, they fought in the U.S. Colored Troops of Maryland, 9th Regiment, 19th Regiment. You know what that means? My grandfathers were the Appomattox, Maryland, Virginia. When Confederate Army General Robert E. Lee surrendered to the Union, my grandfathers was a part of that battle. My grandfathers was in Galveston, Texas, on June 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger read Special Order Number 3, emancipating all Africans previously held in bondage, which gave birth to the Juneteenth holiday. My ancestors were there. I say that because in America, they teach your little brothers and sisters that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Abraham Lincoln didn't free the slaves. The slaves freed Abraham Lincoln. So my grandpop Stephen and my grandmama Caroline gave birth to my grandpop George. After the Civil War, grandpop George marries grandmom Caroline. They have grandmom Vivian. Grandma Vivian marries grandpop Cicero. They have my grandmom Ida, who passed away 6 years ago. She met and married James Johnson. They had my father Jamal Johnson. He met and married my mother Barbara in North Philadelphia. And on August the 21st, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, August the 21st, the anniversary of the Nat Turner War, August the 21st, the anniversary of the George Jackson War against mass incarceration, August the 21st, the original birth date of Jesus Christ, August the 21st, the day Emmett Till showed up in Mississippi, August the 21st, the day Fannie Lou Hamer showed up at the 1964 Democratic National Convention, helping black people get the Voting Rights Act with Dr. King. I was born in North Philly. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Find out what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice that will be used against them. And he said, this injustice must continue until African people resist it. And we can resist it with words, or we can resist it with blows, or we might have to resist it with blood. But he who wants to be free must himself strike the first blow. Frederick Douglass said, a man may not get all you pay for, but you will pay for all that you get. And if we as a people are ever going to become free, we must pay for the removal of those sins. Frederick Douglass said, for 20 years, I prayed on my knees to God for freedom. For 20 years, I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, but the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet. He said, if you want respect from white people, why do you look for pity? The man who pities you will never respect you, and the man who respects you has no need for pity. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the man who gave us this right here, said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Without confidence in yourself, Garvey said, you are twice defeated in the race of life, but with confidence you have won, even before you have started. Marcus Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. Marcus Garvey said that if the black man and woman are not careful, we will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and we will die from the effects of it. Marcus Garvey was once asked, are you an African or are you a Jamaican? Are you an African and are you a Jamaican? And Marcus Garvey stood up. The only mass leader after slavery to build a movement of millions and not have to use religion. Garvey stood up and said, you ask me, am I African or am I Jamaican? I tell you, I would never, ever give up a continent for an island. I am an African. Yesterday, today, for all time. Stockholm, Sweden, one love, black power. Yes, sir. So with that, we're going to go right into the Q&A.